Hello, everybody. Getting ready to start my live stream here, so I will wait for some people to join us. So hopefully we get some people on here on board. And welcome to Dakman Productions Live. I decided to host another live video today. Tuesday. I chose Tuesday nights because I know there's a lot of other live shows on the weekends, and I think Thursday, there's a live show. So I decided to choose Tuesday to do the live shows. And basically, this is going to be a question and answer session about Conahey Rail. And just like the last live video, I'm going to kick it off with I got some questions already made up. And of course, as usual, when I post the time, I always forget there's a time zone, and there's a time zone across the United States. So I always forget that. So when I put up 7 p.m., I'm like, okay, well, too late now, but I should have put Eastern Standard Time because there's other time zones. And hello, Anfield Road Layout in the Loft. Hello. And so yeah, leave it to me to always forget something in one of my announcements. And I don't do a lot of live shows. I do one once in a while here and there. I'm sure if I did them more consistently, that I would probably have a larger audience, but that's fine. People can always go back and watch the live show at their leisure after it's over with. Before we begin, just to give you guys a heads up, I've been talking with Crossed Anchors Railroad, and they had actually asked me if I would like to help them host the Thursday night and the Saturday night live shows, and of course I said yes, and so I'm looking forward to helping them host these live shows. I got actually hooked on to the live shows 3 or 4 weeks ago because I don't have cable. I got rid of cable like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I just cut the cord. I kicked the cable out. I don't have cable TV, so I stream everything onto my TV through a device called Roku, ROKU. And a lot of thank you, Mr. Pictovid. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. Hey, Randy Jacobs, how you doing? BNSF 6951. Actually, this time on Tuesday is a show called On Track Tuesday. Did not know that. Okay, I'll have to look that up and check them out as well. But so I stream everything to my TV on Roku. So you got Netflix and movies. I watch a lot of movies, but when I'm all movied out, there's a app in there for YouTube, and you can actually take YouTube and put it on your TV through Roku. You don't even need a smart TV to do that. If you have a TV that's got an HDMI port, you can use a Roku and actually watch YouTube videos on your TV. So, of course, I'm scrolling through YouTube and looking for something to watch, and I just run across a live show. And I think the first one was actually hosted by Heath, and he was doing a hangout. And so I was watching that, and then I liked the conversation that was going on, so I got involved, and I started typing, and I really liked it a lot. And so this has been going on for like 3 or 4 weeks that I've been watching these live shows, and finally I did. I was a host on, or actually a guest on, 2 of the live shows that Crossed Anchors did, and that was cool. And then I'm watching the live show that PGH Train Fanatic puts on, and he's done some amazing stuff on his live show, creating different dioramas and showing us how to do things, and I really like that a lot. Uh, so I'm watching the live show, the PGH Train Fanatic live shows on Sunday, and he had a Q&A about his layout as well. And yeah, Randy, Nick is awesome, and lives are good to do. I do live on Friday. Yeah. So as Nick at PGH Trains is showing us some stuff, and I'm chatting on there with him, and he's answering a couple of my questions, and then I just so happen to type in. I lost out on a Lionel Legacy SD45. They sold out. Wish I could find one. And I tell you, I think it was Burnsy's Trains, or I think it's Burnsy's. But there was a YouTube member on there who went out of his way not only to find the item that I really wanted, he sent me a message saying, "Hey, Pat's Trains has this locomotive that you're looking for," and it was a Penn Central SD45, and it was like everybody seemed to sell out of them. And I called up Pat's Trains on yesterday, and sure enough, he had it, and I went ahead and bought it. So I'll be doing a Conrail to, or actually Penn Central to Conrail transition train. So I'm looking at that, looking forward to doing that, because I collected all, enough Penn Central cars to do it. I was just waiting for the the right locomotive to come along to do that, because I like EMD locomotives. I'm not a GE or Alco fan, really. I prefer EMD. So when I seen that, Lionel did a Penn Central RS11, I'm like, nah, I don't want the RS11. Then they did a Penn Central U33C. I'm like, nah, I don't want that either. So I'm like being really picky, because you're paying all this money to have, for a locomotive. It's got to be something that you like and you want, because once you buy it, it's yours, and it's hard to resell it and get any kind of money out of it. So, and then when I seen the EMD SD45 show up, Lionel is a BTO, so it's Lionel Legacy, meaning built to order. And by the time I saved up enough money, it seemed like all the major hobby shops were all sold out. So I was like bummed out. I couldn't find one anywhere. And then Burnsy's just happened to find one for me during this live show. And I was just blown away. Somebody went out of their way to help me like that, and I really appreciate that. B Halo said hello, so hello back to you. Yes, Mr. Pictovid, you got the PC SD45. Randy Jacobs says thumbs up. The thing about what I like about the SD45, and many people don't know about the real locomotive, but I always try to research the real thing, so I know a little bit about it. Because I like the model form. But the SD45 was the very first locomotive that EMD built to have the 20-cylinder engine. Or actually, in the world of railroad locomotives, they actually call the engine a prime mover. But basically, the diesel engine part of the locomotive is a 12-cylinder, and previously, before that, they were always traditionally an 18-cylinder. So what EMD was trying to do is basically get more horsepower out of an engine, so you wouldn't need two locomotives to pull. So this one locomotive would equal two locomotives is what they were trying to do. Unfortunately, in that design of the 20-cylinder, it was kind of like flawed, because they kept breaking crankshafts. Um, some railroads loved the 20 cylinders, so they just kept the crankshaft in stock when it broke. Other railroads converted them back to an 18 cylinder, so they didn't have the headaches of the crankshaft breaking in the in the SD 45 for the 20 cylinder. So there was a little bit of story behind the SD 45. Randy Jacobs says, "That's what I love about the hobby. What a great group of people you meet." Yes, you meet a lot of good people uh, in the world of trains, model trains altogether. I am an O gauge person, but I have been to HO model layout tours, and I don't care what scale it is. I'll go there if it's HO, and I'll look at it and I'll visit the place. Um, before I was an O gauger, I was in a G scale, but I always appreciated model trains no matter what size it was, or yeah. So that's hello, Cross Tankers Railroads. How you doing? And so that's how I feel about the model train hobby, because if you just keep yourself to one scale, like I'm an O gauger. So if I only just keep myself to O gauge people, you miss out on meeting some other great people that could help you. And so that's why I always have an open mind. I always, even though I'm not into HO, I'm still going to go to an HO layout and look at it. Matter of fact, I went to a local HO scale club here called the Pat Kong. They're actually there is a video on my channel of them, and they're all HO, and they were the greatest bunch of people I ever met. I mean, they were so nice. They explained the layout, they explained their operations and what they did, and the trains they ran. They were all super friendly, and they really wanted everybody there, and so that was really cool. And as Randy Jacobs says, scales don't matter as long as you rail. That is 100% correct. I like it from the small all the way to the full size rail scale. So now that we have some people on board, we'll move forward here to ConaheyRail questions and answers. One of the biggest questions, or the most common question I get, is what is high rail? Because I'm always referring to the layout behind me, this ConaheyRail O gauge high rail layout. And high rail is a term for layout. And hello, Mike from Cross Anchors. High rail is an actual term for, hold on here, this is in my way, is an actual term for a layout that has scale trains, 148 scale trains. And high rail meaning that the profile of the track is high, because in O scale, which is 2 rail, the profile is smaller. But O scale 2 rail is also 148 true scale. And high rail uses a higher profile track, but it's 3 rail, 148 scale. So that's why I refer to my layout as high rail. And how did I get into high rail layout? Because it really wasn't. It really didn't start out as a high rail layout. But when I was getting out of G scale, and I started going to train shows, and I started looking at O gauge layouts that were there, I met quite a few high rail O gauge layout club layouts, and the clubs were there, and I really liked what they were doing. They were running prototypical trains that were realistic, and I really liked the. It was really interesting that everything was scale. It was true, something you would really see on a railroad, but it was smaller. So it got me hooked right there and then. I'm like, I think it was about 2016 or 2017 before I decided, yeah, I'm gonna go to the avenue of going high rail, where everything's 148 scale. It's 3 rail and prototypical. So that's why I refer to my layout as O gauge high rail. And we had a little discussion. I don't have to get too far off the topic. What is the difference between O gauge and O scale? What O gauge is 3 rail. O scale is 2 rail. Now, if you call your O gauge layout O scale and an O scale person is around, he will more likely tell you the same thing that I am. But there was actually 3 different sizes of 3 rail, and not 2. So I'll show you those sizes real quick. Hold on 1 minute. So originally, and I'm not a post-war expert, so what I'm talking about is after the post-war Lionel stuff. It's all MPC and newer. So in the MPC era, which was the early 70s, they came out with what they called O gauge 027. So these were cars that were meant to run on 027 curves, which is how they got their name 027. And then came along, hold on, then came along O gauge. But this is actually O gauge semi-scale. Lionel calls it traditional. So you have O gauge 027, O gauge traditional. But we're not done yet. This is a O gauge true scale car. This is a scale car of the double door box car. So there you go. 027, O gauge traditional, O gauge full scale 148. You can see the 3 differences. So Lionel went through quite a transition over the years. And pretty much on Conahey Rail, I go with all true 148 scale cars. So I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. Hello, Sam's Railroad Productions. And the very first attempt that Lionel made at going true scale, he actually called it Standard O. They did that for a few years, and then they changed that, so now it's just traditional and O gauge. They don't use the Standard O from what I've seen in the catalog. But the very first, I bought the very first Standard O Lionel, and it was actually advertised as so. This is the very first, as far as I know, Lionel Standard O car, and it was a box car. And you can see they actually marked it as Standard O. Unfortunately, today, if you want to find out if something is scale or traditional size, meaning semi-scale, you got to go into the catalog and see if it's marked O gauge, which is full scale, or traditional, meaning semi-scale. MTH made it so much more easier. If it's in a purple box, 100% of the time, that's scale. If it's in the yellow box, most of it is semi-scale. They have made a couple things full scale in the yellow box, just with less detail, but most of it was semi-scale. So I just wanted to talk to you about that a little bit. And Mr. Pictavid says, kind of like how G has multiple scales. Yes, G scale has multiple scales. G has 124, 132, so and 129. So yeah, G scale's got multiple scales as well. So the next question I get is, how did ConaheyRail start? When I was getting out of the O gauge hobby back in the late '80s and getting into the car hobbies, but before I packed everything up, I remember going through this store and there was a Lionel Conrail train set, and this was 1987. And this train set, I'm like, wow, I really want that until I saw the price tag. It was like $400. And you guys want to complain about the price of trains today. $400 in 1987 was a lot of money. It was a horrendous amount of money, at least for me. There was no way I was affording that set, and I had to leave it there. But I always remembered that set. That was the one set I always wanted and couldn't afford. So in 2014, when I was at the end of, I knew I was at the end of G scale, and I wanted to get back into O gauge. And I remember that set, and then I went out and found one. And this is how ConaheyRail got started. So I found the set that I wanted, the Lionel 1987 Conrail Set. This was Lionel's first attempt at offering train sets at full 148 scale. They weren't the best detailed trains, but at least they were trying to make an attempt to offer standard O or full 148 scale. So they did this. They did a chassis system, which came with, which was an SD40 as well, and it came with 6 center flow hopper cars as a set. And there was a couple other sets that they did from 87 to 89, trying to get people into the standard O or the scale part of the O gauge hobby. And so I didn't. I thought you guys would find that interesting. And the next question I get is, what track do I use? That seems to be one of the most common questions that I get. I use a Gargraves track. It's all Phantom track. And so I chose Gargraves at the time because it was easy to get and it was cheap. Atlas O track is good too, but at that time it was hard to find. They were behind on production, and I didn't want to wait forever to build a layout, so I went with Gargraves. And I made an attempt to hand bend or use flex track. The guy sold me. He said, "This is flex track. You'll be okay." And sold it to me. I guess he was selling me whatever he had. I tried bending it, but I found out later on it really wasn't flex track. And now I know the difference by looking at the underside of the Gargraves track, whether it's flex track or whether it's rigid track. But he sold me rigid track, telling me it was flex track. But I made it work anyway, and then until I expanded. Let's see if we have any questions here. Mr. Pictavid says, when you started building ConaheyRail, did you have it planned out? How is it now, or were the additions, expansions planned later? Good question. In 2014, when I bought that Conrail Limited set that I just bought you, I actually set it up in my bedroom, my spare bedroom. And so I left it in there. I might have used it once or twice. And then in 2015, this was near the end of 2014, And then there, like 2015, I believe it was like New Year's Day just passed over, and I know a lot of people ain't gonna believe this, but I had a vision, I had a dream about the a no gauge layout, and I drew it up just from that. And it wasn't from any plans at all. It was all from a dream that I had, and so I went ahead and made the L-shaped layout, and you guys can see that very first video that I made on ConaheyRail in 2015. If you go on my YouTube channel, and you'll actually see that set running on my L-shaped layout and how ConaheyRail started. Actually, if you go to my YouTube main channel, I have categories, and you'll see ConaheyRail, and just click on that. And at the very beginning of that, you'll see it in 2015. So after I made that L shaped, and then I finally sold off my G scale in 2015, I started adding to it from there. Nothing was really planned out. I mean, the best way to do a layout, yeah, plan it out. But I didn't use any kind of traditional plans. I just put an L in and then started. I would look at it and say, okay, this is what I want, or maybe I should add here. Well, I really want this, or this is the best way to add that. And so that's how I ended up, um, you know, with what I have today. It was just, and not everything worked. Yeah, of course there was times where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and did it, and I'm like, this is working, and I went through that with the switches, because I know raw switches are the best switches to buy, but I can buy 2 Gargraze switches for the price of 1 Ross, just about. And so I went through a couple different phases with Gargraze switches. I tried the 042 switch, and that was a disaster. And then I tried the 054 Gargraze switch, and I was having problems with the frogs. And I gave Gargraze one more shot. I went with an O-100 switch, which is actually almost like a number 6 switch, but it's shorter, so it doesn't take as much real estate to put one in. And they worked perfect for my layout. So that's what I use. Maybe one day I'll go Ross, but right now I'm going on 5 years with the Gargraze O-100 switches, and I don't have any problems with them. Other than you have to run electricity on both sides of that, and I'll make a video on that later. Ravenhawk, Sterling Callahan. Good evening. So we have a couple YouTube channels I want to do a shout out to. Actually, 3 of them that are on board that I see. So we have Crossed Anchors Railroads. They have a YouTube channel. They're into O gauge, and they're doing a lot of great things. They're doing live shows. They're doing interviews. Like I said earlier, they asked me to be a host on Thursday and Saturday. I did accept that. So look for me there with them, and hopefully my channel helps promote their channel. So it's great that our YouTube community channels can get together and support each other, because YouTube sure isn't doing it. And then we also have Mr. Pictovid. His channel is about G scale and garden trains. So he does some nice things. If you like G scale and garden trains, or just that big scale trains, he's got some nice videos. And I actually done a couple team up videos with him. We were actually on location together, and we shot video together, and we put our videos together, and did a Dakman Productions / Mr. Pictovid team up collaboration. And then we have Sterling Callahan, Ravenhawk 6910. I really like his channel. He does O gauge, and he's also a rail fan, and he's in the HO. But I like how he's pretty entertaining. That's what attracted me to his channel. because I'm the type of person that likes to be entertained. If you can entertain me, then I'm watching your channel, pretty much. And then we have, let me see if I think I've seen Sam's Trains, Sam's Railway Productions is also here. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the YouTube channels, and if I missed anybody, I'm sorry. So let's move on here. So what control system am I using? Right now, I'm using Lionel Legacy, which you basically can control anything that's TMCC. So if K-Line had TMCC options for TMCC in it, Atlas O locomotives, they offered locomotives with TMCC, the early Lionel locomotives with TMCC, and of course Legacy. Right now, ConaheyRail cannot run any MTH trains. So I did not get into another system. So the next thing is, the next question I get a lot is the cars, the die-cast cars on my layout that you see behind me there. I get a lot of questions on what brand name cars are on my layout. Most of the die-cast cars are 143 scale, and they're made by a company called Greenlight. And anybody who's watched a series of ConaheyRail videos would know that I really got into Hollywood scenes recently. So there's a lot of Hollywood scenes on my car. So that there's like a Smokey and a Bandit chase scene on my layout, and then there's from the TV show the A-Team. So you got the A-Team van being chased by the military cop car, and then I also have a scene where from the movie Christine from 1983, where you got the Plymouth Fury and the detective car, and of course the '68 blue Charger, which was a friend of the guy who was in the Plymouth Fury. So the next thing is, I got started with ConaheyRail in 2015, actually building it. Like I said, I just started with an L-shaped layout and just added on from there. How many railroads do you have represented on ConaheyRail? Thank you for that question. Hey Vincent, how's it going? So on ConaheyRail, I currently have I'm going to be able to complete my Penn Central train thanks to Burnsies. And then I have Conrail, which everybody knows that I'm really big into. I have Norfolk Southern, and I have CSX. So basically, what I have done is I've done from the era where the government has formed the Conrail and did the takeover of Penn Central, which was failing in bankruptcy at the time. And so Conrail was, Penn Central was claiming bankruptcy, but the government forced them to run until Conrail was formed. And then finally Conrail took over Penn Central. And that's not the only one they took over, but that's the one I'm going to concentrate on. So I'm doing the era from when Conrail takes over Penn Central to all the way through to where it finally ended, and they did the split of Conrail with CSX and Norfolk Southern. And anybody who's not familiar with that split, when Conrail was split between Norfolk Southern and CSX, when they did that split, there was some areas they weren't sure on how to split, and one of those areas was in Philadelphia, and there was like arguments, and they weren't sure how to split the areas between the CSX and Norfolk Southern. So to solve the problem, they came up with a new railroad name called Conrail Shared Assets. So Conrail actually still lives on, but as Conrail Shared Assets. So a lot of the trackage in Philadelphia is still owned by Conrail. A lot of the MOW equipment is still labeled as Conrail. So I didn't know if people knew that Conrail was actually still around. It's not owned by Conrail, but it's shared assets, meaning that Norfolk Southern and CSX share the monies coming from Conrail shared assets. So it gets a little confusing, I know, but I actually know a locomotive engineer who works for Conrail Shared Assets. And because Norfolk Southern and CSX has changed their way of doing business, so Norfolk Southern and CSX no longer want to make end deliveries. They just basically want to take freight cars to a yard and drop them off and be done with it. And then what happens is Conrail Shared Assets will grab those freight cars and deliver them to the places they need to go. But I won't bore you with all that. How many switches do you have on the layout? Not as many as you guys do. Cross Anchor Railroads asked, how many switches do you have on your layout? No, I don't have. I need to add some more. I probably I'm thinking about 10 or 12, but I have to add at least 3 more switches, possibly 4. And right now, all my switches are all manual throw. So I like hands-on operations. Myself, anybody can sit in a chair and throw a switch. I want to be involved with my trains. So when I'm running my trains, I'm actually following along. I act as a conductor. So basically, I take the conductor spot, and when I want the train to do some switching or go to another track, I'll throw the switch. And because I can get to all my switches, and at least I know the switch is thrown completely and in the correct direction. Sean's Trains, welcome aboard. So another big question is I get a lot is how did I make my roadways? Because you'll notice on Conahey Rail, I made a lot of my roads. I got a nice tip from a guy who is into MTH O gauge only. He won't buy anything else but MTH. But that's cool. That's fine because it's his money. But you still want to get along and learn from everybody. And this is where that really paid off. Even though I like Lionel and I like MTH, I like it all. I don't care. But it really paid off being friends with this guy because he told me, hey, to save yourself some money and time, you can actually go to Walmart and buy black poster board and cut your own roadways out. And then there's a guy on eBay who sells the decals to make the double stripes and the railroad crossings on the pavement and all that fun stuff. So that's what I did, and that's how I ended up making my roads. I made it all out of black poster board. And yeah, doing it with making roadways out of plaster instead is a lot more realistic. But I was afraid that if it took me too long to put things together, that I would lose interest quickly. So I did things in a way that it wouldn't take me a lifetime to build a model train layout. I mean, I've seen some guys spend years and years making layouts and layouts that will blow you away. But for me, it's I guess you could say my generation is like the instant gratification generation. You want something like a little sooner than a lifetime. let's see what else we have here. Mr. Pictavids asks, do you have plans for any future layout expansion or additions? There are a couple sidings I want to add, and there is another room that my layout goes into, which is basically my workshop area. And I'm actually thinking about doing something there as far as scenery, so I have something else to include in my video. But that's way in the future. Um, I'm probably not going to do an upper level uh, because I'm afraid it might obstruct the view of Conahey Rail. And not only that, you'll see that it sits pretty low, and that's because after being a diesel truck mechanic for years, you don't want to be bending too far across like that because your back hurts. So that's why it's lower than most normal layouts. So if you take a look, it sits pretty, because I'm sitting down, so it sits about 2 foot high. In case you guys were wondering, is where the layout sits. So it's pretty low compared to other layouts, but it's better for me physically because I can reach stuff further without hurting my back. Let's see. Oh, and speaking of which, another question I get is, how big is my layout? Because my layout actually runs through 3 rooms, and it's located in my basement. So at the widest point, which is actually out here, it is 20 foot wide, and then it is 35 foot long. So I got a 35 foot long stretch. So if you see this right here, it actually goes through a wall into the next room. So it doesn't end here and come back around. This what you're seeing out here isn't the whole layout. You guys don't see the whole thing here. So this is just one part of it. It continues on into the next room. And I've actually had visitors here, and they were pretty impressed by how it goes through multiple rooms. Another question: what trains do I run? I'm a big fan of unit trains. Unit trains means it's all the same train car being used. So like you can have a unit train, intermodal car, or intermodal train is basically a unit train, meaning all the cars are in their intermodal cars. And then I like tank trains, ethanol or crude oil. And if you ever see a crude oil train, it's all tank cars. So that means it's a unit train. And I do have a unit tank train myself on ConaheyRail. I'm sure you guys already seen the video of my auto rack train, which is all auto racks. So those are there are kinds of trains that I like to run, unit trains. I know to some people it's boring, so I try to include mixed freight, or what they call mixed manifest freight, in the world of railroading. For the longest time, people didn't even realize that I had a layout or layouts. I actually had 2 of them because I was always focused on going to train shows and just doing videos from the train shows and bringing it to people who can't go, because that's how Dakman Productions started, was going to train shows and bringing them to the living room or phones or iPads of people who are disabled or can't go, or the train shows are too far away. So I always tried to do that for everybody, and I never even thought, for the longest time, I never even thought of bringing my own stuff to the public. I would do it once in a while as a fill-in. If there was like a train show that wasn't happening one week, I would throw something in there. But other than that, so let's see what else is here. So yeah, I have auto parts train, 86-foot high cube auto parts train. I have about 16 of those, and they're super huge. Those are long, so with a 35-foot long run straightaway, I can get away with a train like that. I've done a coal drag as well, and all these videos you can see on my YouTube channel. And let's see. So another question I get is when people see my videos from ConaheyRail, I get questions. Why do you run trains that don't have graffiti or they're not weathered? I don't have anything against cars that are weathered or that have graffiti on them. It makes them more realistic. So personally, I don't have anything against that. But on the other hand, sometimes I might change my mind on something and go in a different direction. So, in a value sense, that if I decide to sell a train that I no longer have interest in it, or I want to change venue, I've always been afraid that it would be harder to sell something that is weathered or has graffiti on it because people have different tastes about that, and not everybody would like if you have that particular taste. But at any rate, hold on one second here. Oh. All right. So Mr. Pictavid asked, "What do you store the cars you're not running in their boxes, or do you have storage track?" Mr. Pictavid, you must have missed my video, my train shelf video I produced last weekend, because I actually showed how I store my stuff with that video. So basically, what I have done, for those of you that missed it, you might want to go back and watch that video. I actually made train displays for each brand, and they're actually color coded. And I've been told I've been the first one to ever color code shells as per name brand. So in that video, you'll see my Atlas O shells, and everything on them shells is nothing but Atlas O, and it's all painted the Atlas O dark blue. And then I take you to the next part of the video. You'll see inspiration for all this. You'll see my Lionel shells, and all the shells are orange. And you'll see all my Lionel train cars, and everything's in boxes. I don't display anything out of the boxes. And then the next part of the video, I'll show you my MTH shells, and that's all painted in the MTH purple. Yeah, that's fine, Mr. Pick the Vid. I don't mind answering the question, but you might want to go back and watch that video. So yeah, check that out. I think you'll enjoy that. So that, I hope that answers the question of why I don't have graffiti or weathered cars. Maybe in the future, if I get to the point where I'm happy with what I have, I might buy some cheaper end cars and graffiti and weather them. But until I find my the area where I'm comfortable, then I might do that. And one last thing is somebody asked, is Conahey Rail a real railroad? No, it's actually my last name, and I just use a modified Conrail logo for my railroad. And I'm sure some people were asking or wondering how or why did I choose Conrail. I think I discussed that on one of my podcasts, so I'll make it quick, and then I'll run some trains for you guys so you can see everything going. Because that's what PGH Trains did. He did a Q&A and did a run afterwards. I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. I think I'll do the same thing. I mean, why do a Q&A if you're not going to run anything, right? But so how I got hooked on the Conrail is Conrail ran through my town. There was this one train that always stopped in my town, and I would always ride my bike once I found out this train stopped there. I always ride my bike and just to watch this train. So the engineer would stop. I can't remember if there was a signal there or not. I don't know why he stopped, but he stopped there. He would get out of the locomotive, go to the store across the street, come back, and then get back in the locomotive, and then move on. So I was doing this for I don't know about a month and a half. I knew about what time he would be there, so I would always try and meet him there. Sometimes I was, early. Sometimes I was a little late, and I would catch him coming out of the store. But pretty much I knew about the time window because trains never run on schedule. Anybody who's in real railroading, there is no schedule for a train. In other words, at 7:30, he's always going to be here. No, that don't work that way. So this goes on, and a month and a half later, he comes up to me, and after seeing me, he says, "Hey, how'd you like to go for a ride?" And I look at him, I'm like, "Okay, where are we going?" He says, "I'll tell you what, I'll take you a mile down the track." So he got the train crew to take my bicycle onto the locomotive, and I went on there with him. And I remember he got into the locomotive engineer's seat, which was on the right hand side of the locomotive. And I was standing next to him, and I was looking out the window. And and away we went. We weren't going fast, maybe about 10, 15 miles an hour. Because I don't know how many cars he had that day, but he's going to have to stop again, so we're not going to get up any speed. So I think maybe 10, 15 miles an hour. But that was that was something that I'll always remember. That was like the best day of my life, and something that you never forget. I mean, I wish I remember who he was or his name, but well, I can't. I don't remember his name. So that's how I got hooked on a Conrail. Because of that experience of riding a real locomotive, a real freight train, and I was welcomed aboard, by this engineer, and and we're going back into a time period where it was like the late '70s, early '80s. So yeah, you will not. That's true, Mr. Pictavid. Today it's a whole different deal. Railroads are against that due to safety regulations, and now they have in-cab cameras. So if anybody sneaks onto a locomotive while nobody's around, they're going to get caught. And the inboard cameras, are just about on every locomotive. So they face, not only do they face out at the track, but there's also a camera that faces at the locomotive engineer as well, or in the seat area. So they know if the guy's texting or what he's, not paying attention or dozing off or whatever have you. So today's a whole different ball game. So we're going to try and end this with running some trains. Now I have already run them to make sure that everything was going to be smooth, because anybody who watched my updates on Facebook will know that I actually did some restructuring and moved and created a actual electrical base area where control cabinet and all that stuff. So it was a ordeal to rewire the whole entire layout all over again. I spent a week on my back rewiring a layout. So yeah, not fun. But let's make this video fun, and don't mind the. I'm trying to maneuver everything so you guys can have a better view. And I'm going to give you guys a view of the layout here. So today we're going to be running a Conrail train, double-headed, and a CSX train on the outside of it. So let's see if I can do this without crashing anything, which is what happened on PGH Train Fanatic. He ended up crashing two trains head on and never realized it. And somebody kept saying, "Hey, your train's crashed, your train's crashed." And he was like, "No, they didn't." And here they really did. So that was not funny, but funny in the same way. Alrighty. So first things first here. Let's start the CSX looking like that.
This is the yard office. Do you read me? I copy that. Over. We should have you rolling in just a moment. Watch your signals. Over. Yes, sir. Start up and stand by. Out.
So that's the startup sequence of the Lionel Legacy locomotive. So let's see if we can get some clearance to move forward.
Dispatcher, my fuel is just about empty. Am I clear to the outbound? Over. Copy that. Your route is lined and locked. Have a safe run. Over. Roger that. Here we go. Out.
Okay, prototypically, we're supposed to give 2 blasts of the horn before we move forward, so we'll do that. Okay, I'm starting up the Conrail train now. Let's see if we have any lessons. Fine. Like that. We love those bulkhead flat cars at the end. Yeah, those are made by Atlas L. Atlas L makes some nice air-gauge stuff. And they make a Master Series and Premium Series, which are both scale. They do a semi-scale in the industrial rail line, but they concentrate on Master and Premium Series. There's a lot of Atlas L in this train. This is also my modern day prototypical train. So everything you'll see on this train, you'll see on a real train. Everything on here. Now, I'm only running 2 trains, so you'll see that, I have more than enough room to run probably 4 trains total on the rail. But for this video, or this live video, I don't want to press my luck and try to keep track of 4 different trains, so making it easy on myself. But yeah, my layout can handle 4 average size trains running 2 main lines. Alright, so the Conrail trains following trains coming through. And I'll take you guys to a couple different points of layout, so just hold on, bear with me here. Trying to get a point where there's some light. So that's one of my intersections that I finished. I haven't added a indicate or detector on the other main line yet, so that's on my list to do. And as the train comes along here, it goes around that horseshoe curve. So I tried to give the trains 2 different paths to take. Alright, so let's take a look in the other room. Trying to get it angled here. So yeah, ConaheyRail sort of comes around in this room here. And over this way, you will see my graveyard facility. That's where most of my switches are at. There's SD40s on the inner track. One's an SD40 and the other one's an SD38 at cross anchors, cross anchor railroads. So yeah, you got a SD40 up front and an SD38 trail lane. The CSX is a GE AC6000. And as you can see, Mr. Pickabee, here's some boxes right here on display. And even I wanted to mention, even the Conrail train that's running, the freight cars on there are would have been something that you guys would have seen during those years. And there's a lot of those rail cars that are actually still running. Because the FRA says that the railroads can run a freight car for a maximum of 50 years before they have to scrap it. So something in the 1970s, this will be the last year that railroads can run it, as far as freight cars. And bring this down here so you guys can see some more. So that bridge in the background, that's the Menards Bridge. Menards makes some good stuff. So if you're interested in buildings and bridges, Menards has some really unique things that they engage. Yeah, unfortunately, the lighting on this side of the train is not so great, which is why I focus over there. And we'll bring you guys back out here. So as you guys see, on the CSX train especially, everything that's on that train you would actually see on a real railroad, it's all 148 true scale, and that's just the way I like to run on this particular layout. I do have a traditional layout, which I'll probably do a live show that separately on another day, another night. Um, but at any rate, we'll try to end this here in a couple minutes. See if I can do the emergency sequence on the Lionel locomotive so you guys can see it and hear it.
Get here and get out quick. Emergency initiated. Stay back here. I'm at full stop. Over. Copy that. Proceed at restricted speed to the next signal. Where you stand.
So it was hard to hear the emergency sequence over there. Hold on. I really want you guys to hear that emergency sequence, but it's hard to hear the railroad signals going. But when I built my layout, I made it so I could turn the accessories and off and still run the trains to try and keep my insanity. And we'll bring this around. I'll do the emergency sequence and we'll end the video. I still have the control panel to finish up yet. And like I said, I'm going to add 2 remote switches. Then I got to finish the crossover. So I still got work to do on ConaheyRail yet. For those of you who are wondering, I'm planning on putting on probably some kind of live train show event, but we'll see how that goes. I've been painting and reconstructing. Alright, let's see if we can get this emergency sequence so you guys can hear it. I'm going to activate it now.
Yes, sir. We are on emergency. Tower. Train is stopped without problems. Over. Copy that. Proceed at restricted speed to the next signal. Where you stand. Out. See you next trip, dispatcher. Out.
So that was one of the things that I don't know if you guys got to hear that or not, but I'm going to do a better video than what's on my live stream. But the engineer announced that there was an emergency. I don't know if you heard that part. And then the train comes to a stop, and then the crew say that they're all okay, and then the dispatcher says, "Great, proceed to the next signal at restricted speeds." And I'll actually be doing a video on different Lionel locomotives and the different sayings for the emergency stop sequence because it has been requested by one of the fans of Dakman Productions. So I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with me on this live show. I know I made it longer than an hour, but appreciated you guys showing up and supporting Dakman Productions. And I appreciate all you guys. Mystic Southern Railway, hey, what's up, guys? So I appreciate you guys coming to my channel and supporting me. I look forward to the next live show, which I'll be doing with Cross Anchors on Thursday. and then the late night live show on Saturday. I'll see you guys there, and appreciate the thumbs up. Appreciate you guys showing up, and I had fun too, and I had fun hanging out with you guys at the live shows. And I'll see you guys there. All right, guys, I'm gonna end the stream. I gotta get to work tomorrow, so I still got plenty of things to do here. But thanks again. See you later.